Why do Hispanics support Trump? So I think we've all seen that there's been an uptick in minorities, Mexican American, Latinos supporting Trump. If you haven't figured it out already, I'm half Mexican, Mexican American. My mom was Garcia, passed away a long time ago. So yeah, so you know, I have Hispanics in my family. I am Hispanic. I grew up on the southern border of Texas. So yeah, I think you know, I can speak to it. It's funny. Do you hear hesitation there? It's interesting when you grow up mixed, right? Felt like I never really fit in. Mexican community didn't always accept me, but neither did the white community. I had to say that because I want to talk about this topic and not just as some grumpy old white dude that doesn't know what he's saying. But I was trying to understand it. I have a lot of family that are just Latino. They barely speak English. And they're all on board with this Trump guy. I'm like, what the hell is that about? How is it you can't hear the stuff coming out of this guy's mouth? So I've been trying to figure it out. And I said, okay, well, at its core, and this is my theory, at its core, I'm sorry, the vast majority of Trump supporters are just morons. I know that sounds harsh. But they're susceptible to bullshit. They're clearly buying into some lies. And they're not doing any critical thinking. They're not doing their own research. They don't understand. They're not seeing it. So they're buying the con. But that doesn't explain everything, right? Because which con are they buying? He speaks about immigrants like they're the dregs of society. They're coming from prisons. They're rapists. They're poisoning the blood of America. I mean, he says all these horrible things, and there's racial undertones on all of it. They're clearly not buying into the racism part because, you know, that's them. So what part is it? I think Donald Trump has convinced them that the illegal immigrants, although he's talking about all immigrants, I think he's convinced them that those folks are the reason that you're suffering. He's convinced you that the reason that is because of illegal immigration or maybe even immigrants, right? And there's all these examples. They're talking about it all the time. I mean, they're making every case they can about it. And I think you're buying into that. It used to be before Trump, you probably didn't mind illegal immigrants. You didn't think they affected you, right? Other than maybe a slight tinge of, hey, they should have done it legally. My family did. But ultimately, you know, they weren't the bad guys. They weren't the reason you were broke. Now he's convinced you that they are the reason you're broke. The reason you're broke is because of the illegal immigrants coming in, taking your job. Well, hell, now that's not too far-fetched. If you're a Latino living on the southern border, they might want to compete with whatever job it is that you got, especially if you're impoverished. You're probably not, you know, a rocket scientist. It's not completely unreasonable for you to buy into that, even though it's total bullshit. Okay, that's one thing. But is that enough? Is that enough to get you to look past all the overt racism that's coming out of that side? I don't think by itself it is. I think there's another really important factor. First of all, you bought the lie. You believe that illegal or maybe even immigrants that aren't you are coming in and hurting you. But I think the more important thing is the desire to belong and disassociate you from that. If it was just one guy in a corner pointing a finger at an illegal immigrant and saying that they're the cause of all of your problems, that wouldn't be a big deal. But that's not what you got. What are you listening to? You hear tens of millions of Americans pointing fingers at you and saying these horrible things and believing it. You are basically have become a victim of this rhetoric inadvertently. Yet you don't associate yourself with what they're saying because you've bought the lie. You are falling for the gaslighting. So when they say illegal, you're thinking, or you want to think that he's only talking about illegals. He's not talking about me, clearly. So you want to buy into that. So you hang on to that. You believe the lies that those guys are hurting you when they come in. But more importantly, you don't want to be a part of that group that everyone is attacking. You need to disassociate from that group. And you want to tell all of those tens of millions of Americans, hey, I'm not one of them. I'm not the illegal immigrant. I'm not the one poisoning the blood. See, in fact, I got a MAGA hat on. I'm with you. Man, that's just human nature. Just human. Just think about it, right? There's a big group of people, let's say in school, in high school or middle school. There's a big group of people that are picking on you and your nerdy friends. There's a part of you that wishes you weren't one of the nerdy friends. Part of you wishes you were part of that big group of people. And then sometimes, even if it meant you had to pick on your former friends, you'd much rather be accepted and part of the group and not the outsider that everyone picks on. I think that has a big part of why people jump ship and join MAGA, because they don't want to be part of the group that's getting picked on. They've fallen for the bullshit. They want to blame somebody else for their problems, and conveniently, by blaming illegal immigrants, they can now somehow disassociate from that group and become part of that larger group. Become part of those Americans and not be part of the bad guy problem. But you know what? This might sound harsh. I don't have any sympathy for those guys. Because those people that are being attacked, that's your people. That's your family. That's your ancestry. And your weak-mindedness to fall for the bullshit, to point fingers at your own kind, blame them for your problems when that's not their fault. If anything, it's Trump and his corporate monsters that have kept you in poverty, not the fellow poor guy that's trying to make his life better. I don't have sympathy for people that were nerds and decided to join the group of bullies picking on those nerds. And that's you. But you should stop and think about what you're really doing. You don't defeat evil by joining in with them. You stand up with your brothers and you defend. That's what you do. That's honor. That's chivalry, if you want to call it that. I don't feel a whole lot of sympathy for those folks. I could make a video to try to tell them, hey guys, come back. But ultimately, at this stage in the game, I think it's too late. I think they'll come back later when it's convenient. Right now, what's convenient for Latinos supporting Trump? That they don't want to be the ones picked on. That they're too scared to stand up and protect their brothers. That they're too weak-minded to understand they're being lied to.